All right, so we're getting up here towards the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know a lot of people that actually registered for the replay. So I don't want to sit here and get too far behind and do a lot of kind of small talk in the beginning. I'll jump on into it. For those of you that are on live, I did lock the audio and the video just so we could go and get through this, but stay on till the end. I'll answer all questions then. I'm also going to have some things at the end that you might want to get an email for and I can send over to you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We do these client meetings once a month, and I thought, hey, why not open it up to the public? The marketing refresh is more of a broad one where we talk about what's happening, what's new. It's generally for the people that are, kind of maybe stuck, maybe in that million, a million and a half, maybe more, but you just got to get to that next place. Or you could be starting out, right? Maybe you don't even have a practice yet, but you're just trying to figure out what's happening with marketing. So this is really going to give you kind of a 1.0. We're going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. But wanted to go ahead and get started here. So the agenda for today, basically, I'm a consumer behavior nerd. That was my background. That's really been the strength of how we've been doing this for the past 15 years, is really concentrating on consumer behavior. Uh, Building a brand, we're big on that. Things have kind of come back to that. It's not just about lead generation out there anymore. So we're going to talk about that. AI is, obviously big. That's what everybody's talking about, but we're going to kind of get to the truth of that and what really you need to do to leverage that type of digital marketing tools, techniques, the ads that you can run. Driving patient acquisition, obviously a big one. Retention, though, we want to talk about that. And then measuring the marketing success and planning for growth. I'll talk about let's find the truth in numbers at the end. So I've got a really great spreadsheet that will teach you how to kind of budget and figure out exactly what you need as you go along, and really be able to measure. I don't like to say ROI because that can get very sticky, but the lifetime value and how those work. And then a simple strategy to get going and some costs. So a little bit of background. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because you can obviously search for me on the internet. If you've heard of me already or been to the website, that's great. We consider ourselves the place where behavioral science meets local marketing. I've always done local marketing. I've worked with dentists exclusively since 2010. I've had this agency. Last week we celebrated 20 years. So we've been at this a long time. We've only done local. We currently only focus on private practices. We have found that we don't want dentistry to end up being like Lowe's and Home Depot, where you only have corporate options. Nothing's wrong with corporate. We're not necessarily anti-corporate. Any of our clients want to grow and sell. We get that. But we just really feel like there needs to be a great place for private practice to thrive. Um, Everybody on our team, this is a little bit of a differentiator, is a specialist. I, for example, 6 years ago went and got a certification in business coaching because I work with a lot of new practice owners and I wanted to be able to, as kind of an added value, coach them and help them along. Obviously, we've got the AI marketing specialist, anybody with Google ad specialist. We even have an in-house direct mail broker. We really do believe that you got to build value in your brand first and you got to concentrate on profit, meaning that who are your ideal patients, the ones that will spend the money, and then the services that'll bring in the money for you that you'd like to do, right? It's your race, it's your track, it's your pace. So, we want to make sure that you're getting what you want out of your business. Our value, though, is really clarity, speed, and transparency. I try to instill this in everybody that we work with too, right? Take down those friction points, make sure that people know what's happening in your practice, what to expect. Speed, especially we work with a lot of startups, we work with a lot of acquisitions. They want to get to things quick, but we want to make sure we do it in the right way. But then the biggest thing is clarity. We want to make sure that even today, when you leave this meeting, I want you to get at least one thing. I know when I go to in-person meetings, I listen to a podcast, read a book, I can just get one thing out of it. It's got value. So I did this more as an overview so you can hopefully get one thing or maybe just one mindset shift that'll help. So I always break things down into practice 1.0, practice 2.0, practice 3.0. Reason being is when you're in that 1.0, you're in new patient acquisition mode. You are building your brand. That doesn't mean that you're a startup or an acquisition. That means you could be 10 years down the road and now you've got a new growth opportunity and you've really got to go back and figure out how are we bringing new patients in based on this. Or you went and took a CE class and now you're introducing implants into your practice, and you've got to have a new strategy for that. So always good to go back in 1.0 and think about messaging, think about your brand and how you're going to connect. 2.0. So this happens a lot, where you get to that point where, okay, am I going to stop taking insurances? Am I going to plumb that other op and bring in another associate? Where you're focusing a lot on team building, you're focusing a lot on where can we see more profit. That's kind of that 2.0. And then the third place we help people with is that build your business. So I've really found a lot of people have realized, okay, if down the road I have 3, 4, 5 practices, I can replace my income and not have to work really at all unless I want to. So those are the three kind of areas that we work with. 4.0 is your legacy, you're selling out. That's not an area we really help people with. This is the biggest thing that I want people to take away from today. If you just put one word in your head, alignment is it. Where I have seen consistently success with marketing is when everything is aligned. That means you've got a leadership brand that, you've got that strong vision that allows you to hire and train and really collaborate with your leadership group. That trickles down into that culture, right? They buy into your vision. Culture is your look, act, and feel. We're going to talk a lot about branding, and that branding is more about feeling than it is logos and colors and all of that. So really, you've hit culture right. I always say when your team is talking to a new employee and they say, this is how we do it here, not this is how it's done, by this is how they want you to do it, right? So getting that look, act, and feel. You may look professional, act organized, and feel trusted, but that's a lot better than the mission statements and the core values that your team can't remember. The patient brand is an effect of that, right? So if they have a great experience based upon your leadership, the great culture that's been built, the patients see that and they're going to go refer that. And this is when you kind of go from spending a lot of money on advertising to getting a lot of referrals. So this is where your brand starts, and it's all got to align. It's all got to be consistent before you ever even get to marketing. So consumer behavior, like I said at the top of this, pretty big consumer behavior nerd. Kind of a confusing little graph here, but I want to bring this up because a lot of people think this patient value journey just happens online. And that's actually inaccurate. There's a lot of this that happens offline too. And so as people are working through their decision, this is where we want to take them, right? Here they may come in through some AI search, some SEO, pay-per-click on Google, could be social media. They've, gotten a referral from a friend, any of these things in the awareness stage. A lot of this is going to be a high cost transaction. It's going to cost you money and time to bring people in this way. Then you really want to double down when they get in comparison. They need to come to your website that needs to be properly optimized. You want to have, a lot of content for them to read. They need to see the reviews. And then come into the office. They have a great first impression of the office, transact with you. Now, this is where they kind of go from me to you. And this is where they go from high cost transaction to low cost relationship, is when they recall. So as long as they're recalling, then you've now done your job. We've got them there and everybody's happy, right? Because now they go through the experience. They continue to work with you. They continue to trust you. You've built that trust. Now you can get out on what you want, right? The video testimonials, they're going to write you reviews. But here's where the money is going into 2026. And it's been this way for several years. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Facebook Moms group runs things here. So if you're a dentist and you're mentioned in a positive way, then you're obviously people are going to come to you. Also works the other way too. So if your brand's not great, you don't have a good place to send them after somebody gives a great recommendation, you're not going to win that patient. Consumer intent. This is kind of just an easier way to look at this. There are people out there, and this is why branding is so important, that right now could care less about a dentist. They're very apathetic towards it. They have a latent need. They're passive and unaware. Your brand could still be influencing them. Lead generation can. Active need means they're starting to look, right? They're starting to ask questions online. They're starting to figure out what's going on with them. They're curious, maybe concerned. And then comparison and booking is where you are spending money. This is the transaction, right? They are evaluating you. They're a little bit indecisive. They know the second they choose you, they can't choose somebody else. So it's hard for them. You've got to take down the friction. I'm going to keep saying that. You cannot have friction when you're trying to interact and get people to come to you. When they're booking with you, this is very transactional to them still, right? Like you're a dentist, which is awesome because you get to go through all three layers of consumer engagement. You get to transact with them, you get to build a relationship, and you can even be transformational. You can do something for them that actually changes their life, which is pretty cool. But they don't know that yet. So they're a little bit skeptical. But when they come in and they experience you, they start feeling more comfortable, they start to trust you. And that's where that advocacy happens. So it's important to remember that as you're putting together marketing campaigns. This has changed a lot over the 15 years since I've been in dentistry. And I like to, when we go through, I'll show it here in a minute, a program we've got that we facilitate called the Signature Brand Experience. And basically what it is it's saying, okay, what is your ideal patient? If you had 1,800 of this exact patient, who would it be? But at the end of the day, what we have found is there's generally 5 areas that if you focus on, you can get a lot of success from. So for example, the busy moms, right? We used to just say families. And I'll back up here for a second for clarity reasons. When you say family and cosmetic dentistry, understand for families, the cosmetic side makes it expensive. And for the cosmetic people, it kind of makes me think, oh, you're a family dentist that's doing cosmetics. So again, not bad if you've done that. I'm just saying, understand how people view that from a consumer behavior standpoint. So busy moms is a great one to target. Active seniors, back when I started in dental, you didn't go after seniors, right? They fixed incomes, didn't spend money, but they are retiring with some money, right? It's like my dad told me, he's like, I don't want to be rolled around a nursing home. I just want to swim up to the bar. So active seniors are out there and they're paying for money. They want to look good in those pictures at the beach with the white shirts and the khakis on. So don't neglect them. Multi-generational families. This is new, right? The used to you moved home and you raised your family where you were raised. And that's just not the case for a lot of people anymore. So the parents are now moving where the kids have had their kids, which creates a new opportunity for you, right? You can get the whole family in. Young professionals. This is not necessarily a hot target 5 years ago because they don't have money. Well, maybe. And I know it's a tough market for young professionals, but their priorities have shifted. You know, I was 25. I cared about getting a house, getting an awesome car. You know, my teeth were fine. Okay, that's great. But I was not going to invest thousands of dollars into my smile. Now, still a lot of young professionals may have healthy teeth, but they are more prone now to do cosmetics than they've ever been because they want to spend the money because they know they are, you know, online all the time and people see them all the time. So they want to look good. New movers, this is low-lying fruit. I don't know why all of you aren't aggressively seeking out new movers every single month. We do new mover campaigns for direct mail every month for all our clients. I mean, does it blow the doors off? Not always, but shoot, if you can get 3 or 4 or 5 new patients from it every month, it's a great source. So take that into consideration when you're doing strategy. Excuse me. The other thing, you're going to hear this word omnipresent be some buzz term. Maybe it already is. I tell people set goals so that you can slowly start to build yourself out to where you are everywhere. Omnipresent basically means somebody coming in you and be like, man, I see you guys everywhere. Right. So not going to read through all of these, but I'll give you an example. So let's say community engagement. You sit down with your team and say, hey, we want to host or participate in one community event per month. We want to collaborate with at least 3 local businesses or 1 organization per quarter and generate 25 new patient referrals from community-based visibility. And we want to do this in 6 months. So you're creating these very specific numbers, very specific benchmarks. And when you start doing that, you're like, okay, this is going to bring me 25 new patients. This one may bring me 60. This will bring me 10. This will bring me. But if you've got goals, then now if we start to work through these things and do them, we're going to get there because we're doing enough things to be creating enough buzz to get the people that we want. Create a calendar. This is not necessarily a calendar that we use, but I'm using this as an example. You know, if you're doing direct mail, what campaigns are you sending out? Super cool now on direct mail. We can send out 7,500, 10,000 pieces, but we could have 5 different pieces of direct mail in it with all 5 of those consumer types. It's kind of crazy. But how much are you going to post on social media? Just have a calendar so that your entire team knows what the efforts are that are being made. And you can go back and you can assign it to people because you as the leader of the practice do not need to be doing this. Again, not the budget sheet. I'm going to give you a really awesome tool at the end that's more accurate than this, but just have something that you know this is what we've spent, this number of new patients we got. Track it the best you can. Dentists historically don't have what we call CRMs in our world, in the business to business world, where if some new patient called in, but we didn't get them in for some reason, are we reaching back out to them? So just good to have that. All right. So getting into building your marketing strategy, a little bit on this marketing refresh, right? Here's sort of the steps that win. First and foremost, we talked about this quite a bit, the branding, the look, act, and feel. You know, your brand isn't your logo. It's how everybody feels about your practice when you're not there. Um, I feel like a lot of dentists, and I talk to startups about this all the time. You can't look corporate. Corporate has a look. And if you go duplicate that look, they're going to beat you every time. You have to have something that's unique. So, for example, had a guy that opened up a startup in a very competitive area. And he said, you know, I'm a dad, I'm a little league coach, I'm out in the community. This is where I want to be. You know, you got a brand, man. I'm like, this is a challenge. But what we did was we put dad jokes on the front of direct mail. We actually put some funny things for moms and shopping cart ads. And it may have sounded cheesy, but it was very tongue in cheek. And people just could relate to him and really liked him. I'm going to show you what we did on his website too. But they got to his website, found out more about him, really liked him, and he booked a ton of appointments that way. But back to this and the omnipresent side of it, when people would see his banner in the baseball fields, the local baseball fields, they'd be like, oh, that's the dad joke guy. And you want to get known for stuff like that. We had a lady one time always wore high heels in the operatory, but she kind of became the Styles and Smiles dentist. And a lot of her social media was around things she suggested. So when you have that, people attach themselves to that and they're like, that's the person that's like me. I want to go to them. Right. Website. I'm going to go through this in detail because you can't mess this up. This is where the best way for me to tell you if you're having success on this or not, go look at your Google Analytics. Are you getting 1,000 hits to your website, but really no patients converting from it? The website's not great. It's got to be changed. So now's a good time on a refresh to do that website. Community growth engine. So this is more about the advertising, right? Where it meets the PR and where it meets your community involvement. This is everything. So the community growth engine, we're going to spend a little time on we'll talk about advertising and marketing for that. AI search, SEO, and content development. This is where you're going to become trusted. This is where you're going to gain authority. We've spent the last 2 years working on AI search. I'll talk about that here in a minute. Generally, you're good at that. The SEO comes along with it. Results that we've seen is that here in some markets, you've had somebody that's dominated SEO for the past 15 years. They don't dominate AI search. So you can easily get in there and start pulling that away from them. And I'm going to show you how. Enrichment. I think this is what most people call lead generation. We got tools now that'll tell me who in your market was looking for veneers this past weekend. Give me their information and I can deliver them ads. That's pretty cool, right? So using data, enriching that data and getting your message out there, this is where we're getting to, right? And then I kind of put the +1 here. This is really important. I feel like this has created more success for the dental practices I work with than anything else. I don't do this. I can help set this up and coach these people, but you know, it is your reputation. It is your brand. You need to either hire somebody for this position or assign it to someone you currently have. But the person that a patient's attach themselves to the most needs to become this patient advocate. And they need to know their job is to make every patient happy, get reviews, be present in the community. This is where you could really get some big wins. So branding, the signature brand experience that we do, if you've ever read the book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, that's a big part of this, but I would suggest go pick it up if you haven't. It's great. But really what we do in this, it's a 4-hour workshop we do that facilitates getting clarity around how people are going to, what people you want the most, what problems that they have, how are you going to help them, showing empathy, showing authority. These are all things you think you know in your head till you sit down and do this. And then, you know, how are we going to call them to action? What are we going to offer them? How will you prove to them that you're not going to fail them? There's all these things, right? There's 2 big things you're up against. Yes, there's competitors in dentistry, but really you're up against the status quo. People just don't want to do it. They got 40 things that they want to do today. And then they got 40 things that they have to do today that they don't really want to do. So think about where you might fall on that, right? And so you've got to make sure you're creating an experience and people are excited to come see you and they're excited to talk about you. And that's what the signature brand experience does. Uh, Brand identity. This is more what everybody thinks about with branding. What is your colors? What is your logo? Um, Really, what I just want to touch on here, I generally just put up guardrails when I'm working with somebody on this to be like, these are the colors you don't want to use, right? Like red and brown, blood and dirt, probably not the best. Script writing looks great, but then you try to put it on a sign and nobody can read it. Certain, ways and fonts and things like that can do it, but you want to keep it consistent. Same with your messaging and your brand tone, all consistent. Make sure that, if you've got a very bold, manly logo, then make sure your tone of voice is also bold as well. Consistency across all marketing channels. I talked about omnipresence earlier. You got to be consistent. If you're going after busy moms, this looks like a staff of moms, right? It's pretty awesome. They're a great group of people. Just trying to keep them, do things that are different. Don't always, but make sure it resonates with them. Make sure the visuals on the website match what you're doing on social media, match what you might do on direct mail, on a banner, those types of things. And then just build trust, right? Website. So I'm going to quickly go through this, but again, if this is something you want to talk through, if you want me to evaluate your website with you, I'm more than happy to do that. I don't evaluate it where a typical marketing company does, where, oh, you've got the, you don't have enough citations and backlinks and blah. I look at it and it's like, this needs to move here. This looks a little different. I would take this out. And we're going to talk about what it should look like. So 10-point website wireframe. First is obviously that hero. This is mainly on desktop. Some of these come up weird on mobile, not our sites per se, but if you try to do too much in a hero, it can look bad. But you want to just basically, what was the big problem they had that we found out from that signature brand experience? Anxiety. Okay. Our top priority is improving your smile and making sure you're comfortable and relaxed. In the background was a video. This is a drone shot of their practice. So you just want to make it look nice too. Define who you are and where your practice is at. This is more SEO purposes, location based, so that it attaches to Google My Business. You really want to be direct here. I'm a family dentist in Davidson, North Carolina. You don't want to get fancy here at all. Then this is where everything changes on a website. If you make one change to your website, do this. So you want to solve their problems first, because they are coming to your website because they have something they need to find out or that they're concerned about. And when all you do is talk about your CE and your services and how great you are at this, and you're an Invisalign 5-star provider, whatever it might be, they don't care. What they care about is, I'm embarrassed that I haven't been to the dentist in a while and I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. But you just put on your website, that's fine. We get that. We make mistakes. We didn't change our oil all last year. We're neglected just like you are. Let's change that and get in here. I need a dependable dentist who can provide care for my entire family, right? Some people are like, well, they say they take kids, but then they don't. Here's the dentist with his wife and his child, obviously sticking with the theme of being a family practice. I need a dentist that values my health and consults me on options. As a private practice, one of the bigger advantages you have is taking your time with patients and really being a consultant and a coach, right? So you can do that. And I think people appreciate that and want that private practice experience. And if you think that consumers are not realizing the difference between private and corporate, they are. It's everywhere. Tattoo parlors, funeral homes, you name it, they see it. In these sections, you really want to pick out the big services you want to highlight. Don't pile a bunch of stuff here. Maybe 3, 4 tops. These are the ones that people can actually click off the site and go to. And you don't want too many of that, right? You want to have enough copy here that they don't necessarily click off, that they're like, oh, okay, I've got an emergency. It looks like they can take care of me. I'm going to go ahead and schedule. And then a strong offer. So a lot of different ways to do this. I know a lot of consultants, and I love them all, will tell you don't discount your services. Don't, but okay, don't. But at least offer something, right? So this person had dental whitening. They have a dental whitening plan that's $20 a month. So that's at least something, right? Is it strong? Maybe, maybe not, but it at least lets people know, oh, I am interested in teeth whitening because I'm a family practice, I'm a mom. I want to look nice. Then you want to build authenticity and credibility. So the second place that you got to change your website and make sure you have this is right here. This is more about credibility. I think people do want to know that, yes, you went to dental school. Where did you go to dental school? What is your background? It's nice that he's only 6% of general dentists have got this fellowship. So that's great. That gives him credibility over other people. But here's where they find the relatability. This was the guy I talked about with the dad jokes. So people would see that, come to the website. He's very tongue in cheek, right? Coach Little League, eat at the same restaurants you do. And then I have a favorite brewery and I'm open to debate this. He was like, I'm shocked at how many people come in and hate that brewery. But again, it gives them a way to relate to you and have a conversation with you. Very, very important. I get that traffic is off on Providence Road. That's why I opened my new office on Randolph Road. It's also why we opened at 7 a.m. Made it very, very local. Corporate would not know that problem, right? So now everybody knows this is my guy. Specials, we talked about offers earlier. I like doing one thing dental and one thing local, like a local gift card to a restaurant or something around there that people are like, oh, that's cool. I'll be entered into a drawing for that. Water picks or, Sonicares, things like that are great because, people value their health. So that's a good one to do. This is, don't go overboard on this, but what are the additional services? These are just usually flip boxes. And again, I am trying to make this scroll friendly. I don't want people clicking off of this, trying to go to a hamburger menu somewhere or they flip over to another website. I don't want that. I want them to scroll, find what they want, book that appointment. Section 9, Google reviews. So I highly suggest there's easy widgets to put these on the website. Have those scrolling. They'll be the latest ones. You may get a 1-star. It's how you respond to it. Really can be stronger than a 5-star that has no response. So don't be scared to do that, because what's more scary to me is the fact that they can then go off your website and get into everybody else's Google reviews and maybe choose someone else. And then finally, a lot of people do a video here, but what do they expect? What's that first visit going to be like? Because that, if they are nervous, they do have anxiety, this is new to them, right? It's like a kid on the first day of school. I got to feel comfortable in the place where they're going to do, work in my mouth. So let them know exactly what to expect. Market like you mean it. So I'm not going to dive too deep into all the marketing things. I'm really going to keep that high level. Like I said, we can have conversations about that. Email me or go to venturepractices.com. You can schedule with me. AI search. Let's talk about this for a second. AI search, the intent there is you're doing research. So we actually call this AEO, which is more answer engine optimization, where we want to show up when people ask about, I've got bleeding gums, I've got this, I've got that. SEO in the past just showed all these national companies and all that. Well, now it can be more local. So for example, this is a client that has only been open 3 months. His website's been up 3 months in a very, very competitive area. But what we do is we have software that tells us this is what people are searching. We're going to go do expansion pages and write about this. And so now we show up in Mooresville for Osborne Dental. We also show up over here that talks about bleeding gums. But here's what's crazy. It also helped us with SEO search. So it was best for authority for the SEO, right? But discovery for AI. So we're kind of moving them through this process, that patient value journey, pretty quickly. Do not ignore Google My Business. I know there's a ton of ads on Facebook. It's like Google My Business is all you need to do for SEO, and you get a ton of new patients if you do that. Kind of right, to be honest with you. Not my approach, but at the same time, your Google My Business has to be perfect. You got to have a lot of reviews, be over a 4.5 is all you really got to do. But you need to be posting content there in pictures. Treat it like a social media channel, but make sure everything is accurate. That's the last thing you want, is for it to not be accurate. Social media, I call this uncomplicated collaboration. Let's talk about social media for a second. Social media is a snack, meaning that people go to social media at a time they're bored or they're trying to fill something out or they're trying to figure it out. For example, when we work with startups, we rarely suggest doing social media ads. Like, let's build your social media presence. But yet I'll still see people that'll be like, hey, new dental practice in your area, schedule here. And if I click the button, I go to their scheduling page. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. Why didn't you send me to, the homepage at least so I could learn who you are? So even if somebody did book that because they were sitting there and they're like, "Ooh, I do need to go to a dentist," 92% no show rate. That's what happens when you do it that way. But if you start to advertise benefits and you're not trying to be so direct response about it, like dentistry is not expensive, neglect is, and you start to get in their head of, oh, I probably should be going to the dentist soon, and just get them to your other content, right? Reviews are still important. I know that doesn't seem like it, but this particular client is everywhere online. We can't screw up their marketing because they're everywhere, because they get reviews everywhere. They do a great job. Talking about collaboration, we post majority of what they do, but they send us photos. They send us great content to post, and it's authentic, right? This one's about what they did. That's a cultural thing that's happening right now. So let's talk about social media. These are the 6 ones that you should really, really concentrate on. LinkedIn's not on here. I'm not saying you shouldn't concentrate on it, but it's probably LinkedIn's its own thing. I can do a whole thing on that. And it just the value of what you do there isn't great. Biggest one, Facebook. That's the trust builder because that's where people are going to groups and asking about things. But the more you're there and the more people can understand your brand and who you are, that's your best branding source. Same with Instagram. So that's your visual storyboard. So behind the scene moments, do some reels. That's great. But really, you just want to keep it looking nice, and it's got to be on brand. Got to be on brand. Google My Business, we already talked about that. That's your conversion engine. This is where if you want those direct response, you want leads, it's got to come to that to get people there. Next door in Facebook groups, I've talked about Facebook groups. This is where credibility happens. People would rather have a stranger's opinion than someone else's. Don't neglect the Nextdoor app. You can actually run ads there too. We've had some success with that. It's something to think about. The big one that you've got to take control of, though, over the next year is your YouTube page. We are starting to tell every client we have got to be doing videos on YouTube. So maybe once a quarter, you have a professional photographer or videographer come in, interview your patients, interview you, do some FAQs, or at the very least, go buy a lavalier mic that hooks to your iPhone, put it on a nice stand, get a ring light. None of that will even cost you probably $100, and just start getting some decent quality content that we can put on YouTube. The wild card here, probably most of you looked at this and are like, oh, Reddit. It's kind of the Wild West of honest opinions, but this is where people are going and asking questions, right? Beyond this, AI is coming to Reddit and get it. We're trying to figure out our AI Reddit strategy right now because it's hard for us to be in those conversations and post. But you could almost, as a dentist in your local town, create a Substack and really kill it because nobody else is doing it. So that's an area that if you just really want to hunker down into something, let a company like ours take care of the rest of it if you really want to get into that. And we've got guides on that. But yeah, it's AI is all about Reddit. Direct mail. So first 5 years I was working with dentists. Direct mail companies would call me and be like, hey, you need to add this to your mix. You need to add this to your mix. And I'm like, no, direct mail's terrible. I hate it. I was a TV guy. And then we started doing direct mail and it killed it. And I'm being honest when I say this, it is by far the most consistent deliverable in marketing. If you're consistent with it. Most people aren't because they run it a couple of times and they're like, I didn't get a million patients. I get it. It's tough, right? But the opportunity costs you're missing out on here for sure. People, I mean, it's coming right to their mailbox. They're so used to scrolling on things. You got to see something 27 times online before it registers the activity you're supposed to do. Direct mail, 3. So that's the biggest difference too. So anyway, what should this look like? You can use stock photos if it goes along with what you're doing. This particular client, he realized through the signature brand experience that his client was actually the moms, and he was going to create more of a Magnolia home experience in his office versus some primary colors and beanbags. So he launched his grand opening and said, this is where moms smile too. Great branding. This I almost refused to run. because they sent me this picture and said, hey, we want to run this next month in our direct mail. It's a picture of the staff. And this was like in November, maybe even beginning of December. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is not going to work. This is a terrible idea. 70 new patients from it. 70 new patients. So every month they just sent me a new picture and they got, I mean, usually it was 30 to 50 was an honest, but it worked every time. We encourage people to do that all the time. Look how silly that is, but it's great. You know, it's a lot of fun. It shows personality. People want you to be regular. And then I was telling you about the dad jokes. We did these every month. And the interesting thing there was we actually ended up getting dads coming in where we thought the moms would think it was a little tongue in cheek and funny, but the dads would come in and then they bring the family because they were like, his office is awesome. You got to come see it. So all these different things, be original, right? Okay. So I can send you this, but I want to show this to you instead of going through every possible advertising thing here and listing this out. I created this kind of the marketing products and estimated cost in 2025. This is everything you can do: Google search, Google display, all the way down, text in offers. What are you doing for patient referrals? So there's actually over here in column A, a checklist. Like, what have we done? And then you can evaluate that. But it also tells you investment ROI. So search, pretty high ROI, but very low awareness. So if you're trying to create awareness, it is not what you want to do. It's very trackable because it's digital. Lead generation wise, it's pretty high too. And so each one of these go through that. And the goal, convert high intent leads. So Google search ads, these are people ready to go. Awareness is low again on that. So you just kind of go through here. Digital retargeting, not a lot of people do that, but we love it. It really is kind of, investment. The ROI is high. It's easy to track, great awareness. That's always a good one. I'll give you a good example here and then we'll kind of move on. But billboards, huge visibility. People hate them. Why? Because how do you track it? And I'm like, you rented people's eyes, 100,000 eyeballs drove past your billboard for 90 days. If they don't know you're there at that point, there's nothing more you can do. So it's really just figuring out this mix. When we talk about refreshing your marketing, it's a lot of this too. What is going to work good for you? Same for my business. There's a lot of people out there that go to trade shows and things like that that sell to home service people, right? That doesn't work for me. Going to shows, people there for CE, they're trying to figure out, trying to sell somebody's shows, not what I do. But I have some other things that I check off. Doing content's great for me. So just keep that in mind. And again, this is my email. I'm going to put this back up in a second. When you send the email, name, city, also website if you got it. And then whether you're a current practice owner or you're a new owner or you're looking to do it. But I'm going to put this back up in a minute. I want to show you one more thing. I wanted to keep this under 45 minutes. This last section, the truth. It has taken me years to figure out the truth. And I'm in a mastermind with a guy that works with med spas. And he came up with exactly how to look and project based upon what somebody brings in each month. So I'm going to show this to you. It's a profit calculator, kind of thinking about lifetime value. Probably more first year value would be a way to look at this. And I'll tell you why. First year value, a good example. I had a guy open a practice spending $5,000 a month marketing. And he was doing direct mail, doing all the things. In this particular April, he had brought in, I can't remember how many patients it was, maybe 10. And he said, I got $900 on average from those 10 patients when they came in. So he's like, I made $9,000, but I spent $5,000. I didn't even get a 2-to-1 ROI. What are we doing? Right? He was frustrated. Fast forward a year later, get to that April. And I'm like, let's go back to last April. What did those people spend in the first year? The average person spent almost $4,000. So now those 10 patients spent $40,000 off of that $5,000 investment, right? So now that ROI is in 8 to 9, right? In addition to that, we started linking it up with how many referrals did these people bring in? Over 22 referrals came in. So 10 patients brought in 22 other people, more than one each. Now, he said some of those were families that had 3 or 4 people, but point being, now add that up. So that 10 patients turned into 32 patients that were spending an average of $4,000. I mean, it just adds up. So looking at this, I'm not going to get too in the details. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm the passionate like marketing consumer behavior guy, but let's just say at a monthly ad spend, you got 150 leads. This is what your cost per lead is. To me, that means nothing because it didn't generate you a dime. The close ratio is 12%. So we got 18 new patients. Initially, what they spend was $300. This is low, right? For most dentists, it's over $1,000. Retention rate, meaning they come back, 65%. Again, that's low. So this is being very, very conservative. Cost of goods sold, you might have a higher number here. So that may be a difference. Here's what people pay us, or this particular person that we use as an example paid us. Revenue per patient, monthly generated revenue, customer, all of that. So this is why I say it's the truth, especially with startups. You get into month one and you're spending this money, you lost $4,135 and you feel that. And that does not feel good. And by month 3, you're still losing money. And that does not feel good. I generally like clockwork. This is why I should put a line here and put Valley of Despair, because that's where I love to coach. I love new practice owners because I know where they're going to freak out, right? I know it. But month 4, they start to feel a little bit better. They've gotten enough referrals that things are starting to turn around. So this tracks with everything I see. And by month 6, people are pretty comfortable. And then usually by the end of the year, I mean, you look at month 12, you know, if you can make $177,000 a month, that would be great, wouldn't it? Now, does that always happen? Nope. Nope. If you can get to 100 grand by month 12, great. You're $1 million practice. But we can adjust these numbers to where they are real, and it is the truth. So again, you can get this. Just go to bshaver@venturepractices.com. You can also follow me, Venture Practices, bshaver CLT on Facebook. I put a lot of content out there. We got a YouTube channel under Venture Practices. Go to the website, check it out. But I really appreciate you taking the time on this. Again, when you email me, name, city, website, whether you're an owner, and then we're going to start doing more of this, but we're going to dig down deeper. In other words, we might do a whole one on AI search. We might do a whole one on websites. So just kind of stay tuned for our content, and we look forward to having you on.